What's up guys, it's Ugly Strew here, and I'm bringing you another KeyForge video, but this time it will be a video for returning players rather than new players. The reason I'm making this video is because I've seen plenty of Discord posts and Reddit threads from returning players asking a handful of questions that I'd like to help answer the best I can. First, I'd like to emphasize that the KeyForge IP is now owned by a new company called Ghost Galaxy, who purchased it from Fantasy Flight Games in 2022. This shift was extremely positive in my opinion due to how FFG sort of abandoned KeyForge during and after COVID, and while the acquisition is only a couple of years old, Ghost Galaxy has done a great job at pushing out new content and is continuing to support organized play and hopefully support retailers a bit more in the near future, but I'll get into that a little bit more later on in this video. So what have you missed? The biggest question that people seem to ask is how playable their older decks are in the current state of the game, and if power creep should be a concern. To answer this question, I'll say that all sets have the potential to be competitive, but there has been a significant amount of power creep. So let's just do a quick run through of the sets that have been released. Call of the Archons, or Set 1, still contains some of the best decks ever printed. For example, Pink Fraud, which is arguably one of the best decks ever made, came from the first set and is still taking matches off the latest sets in organized play. But generally, the power level of these decks is much lower than what you'd typically see in a tournament. Age of Ascension, or Set 2, has some potential in Alliance format, which is the KeyForge equivalent to like a constructed format, but the overall power level of this set is very low. Worlds Collide, or Set 3, seems to be hit or miss. Some people love it, others don't. This set introduces the new houses Saurian and Star Alliance. Saurian contains beefy Roman dinosaurs that do a lot of amber capturing, and Exalting, which is a new mechanic that involves taking amber from the common supply and putting it onto your own creature, usually for a high-risk, high-reward play. Star Alliance focuses on robots and upgrades and supporting cards outside of the active house. Worlds Collide definitely still sees some competitive play due to its wild combo potential, but I personally haven't played enough with this set to really judge it. I hear Brobnar is very underpowered in this set, and some decks are just completely abysmal because of it. I believe the SAS range for Worlds Collide is probably one of the highest due to its potential to be really good or really bad. Mass Mutation, or Set 4, is probably one of the more fun sets to play, but is probably better sealed against itself because of the synergy with mutant creatures. I haven't played much of this set myself either, so I can't speak too much on it though. As for new mechanics, this set introduced enhancements, which add more bonus pips to cards, rather than just your typical bonus amber that you'd see. Now you'll see things like draw pips or capture pips on cards that'll get resolved as soon as the card is played. Dark Tidings, or Set 5, probably isn't even worth mentioning much of at all. This set generally sucks, and can probably be skipped unless you're super interested in the Tide mechanic. The Tide card starts neutral, and can be raised for either player. When it's high for you, it's low for your opponent. When the Tide is high for you, some cards in the set will grant bonus effects. The mechanic is neat, but overall it's a bit too clunky for most people, and in most games, so it's usually not worth playing the set at all. However, this set introduced the house Unfathomable, whose focus is on disruption and control. Winds of Exchange, or Set 6, is probably the most interesting set released in my opinion. This set introduced token creatures, which involves playing the top card of your deck face down to act as the creature shown on your token reference card. Personally, I think the mechanic feels a bit clunky, but overall it is a fan favorite and can be extremely powerful. Tokens are an easy way to flood the board, and there are some insane combos and great cards in this set to keep it really competitive. This set introduced the house Equidon, which is a mixed bag of amber control, card control, and trading. Grim Reminders, or Set 7, is where the state of the game starts getting concerning. GR is on average the most powerful set ever released. The chances of cracking open a competitive deck are much higher in this set than in any of the others, mainly due to the overall power of the cards and ease of the combos. Grim Reminders introduces some pretty broken card combinations and just extremely powerful cards. The new mechanic introduced in this set is the Haunted mechanic, which just means you have 10 or more cards in your discard pile. Despite what feels like a power creep though, this set is the most fun to play in some people's opinions, and the Haunted mechanic is just easier to manage when compared to other previous clunky mechanics like the Tides or the tokens. This set introduces the house Geistoid, whose cards involve a lot of recursion and purging. This set also introduced the new Scrap mechanic, which activates when the card is discarded from your hand on your turn. Amber Skies, or Set 8, is probably my most favorite set. This set introduces things like Sky Beasts, house enhancements, and a new faction called the Skyborn, whose main gimmicks are about manipulating the battle line and certain abilities triggering depending on the colors of keys forged. Amber Skies brings back some of the most fun and powerful houses like Dis and Logos that got rotated out in previous sets. Skyborn is a fairly low power house but has some incredibly broken cards such as Redline Rotation and Black Tempest. Due to house enhancements, there are some wild combos that can be made, allowing you to play some cards while in another house on your turn, and allowing for card synergies never seen before. Amber Skies is probably my favorite set ever released for several reasons, and while it may not be generally on the same power level as Grim Reminders, it is definitely the most fun to play in Sealed and Alliance formats. Prophetic Visions, or Set 9. This is the latest set released by Ghost Galaxy and is probably the strongest and most broken set to be released. House enhancements have returned from Amber Skies, but other houses have rotated back in, such as Sanctum, Saurian, and Redemption, which is Sanctum's nefarious counterpart. The biggest thing about Prophetic Visions is the new Fate mechanic involving prophecy cards, which are essentially trap cards that you can set and will trigger on your opponent's turn based on the condition on the prophecy card. The reason I say that it's broken is because the overall power level of the cards and the Fate mechanics can be absolutely busted, and with the right combination can feel totally unfair to your opponent. Sometimes there's just no way to play around some of the prophecy cards, and there are no ways to really interact with them once they're set, at least as of November 2025. This set is fun, but involves a bit too much bookkeeping for my liking, and I would probably not recommend this set to a beginner or even a returning player until they are more comfortable with the other mechanics of the game. There have been side sets released, such as Tokens of Change and Crucible Clash. While these sets are cool, they don't really contain any new mechanics or a huge pool of new cards. They're just kind of gimmicky sets that might just be there for a fresh experience in between official sets. The biggest change you need to look out for are those new mechanics. Exalting is common among Saurian creatures, Scrapping is common among Grim Reminders cards, bonus pips we'll see play across all new sets, and tokens are the staple in Winds of Exchange and Tokens of Change decks too. Despite these new mechanics, some, and I mean very few, older decks can still be viable and competitive. Personally, my highest SAS deck is actually a Call of the Archons deck from the first set. Sometimes simplicity and very powerful effects and combos can just overtake some of the crazier cards in later sets, but it is very, very rare. Chances are your old decks are not competitive and aren't worth anything right now, but I still recommend hanging on to them for like casual kitchen table play. So how is the current state of organized play? Well, this is the subject of a lot of controversy. A lot of people feel that Ghost Galaxy is not doing a great job at localizing organized play. And while this may be true, I just don't think enough people care about KeyForge right now to make it worth it for the local game stores to carry the product or really host any organized play to begin with. The game needs more marketing and funding and is still in the reviving process from FFG's mismanagement, but Ghost Galaxy is doing a pretty good job at hosting these national and worldwide events called their Vault Tours and these KeyForge championships that they have. If you are really interested in the game, I highly recommend making it out to one of these Vault Tours for one of the best KeyForge experiences that you'll ever be a part of. As for local play, we have a thriving community here in Texas, and our weekly meetups usually contain enough people to keep the game fun and fresh, but that's only due to word of mouth and one of our locals actively recruiting people from other card games like Flesh and Blood and Magic. In my opinion, it's entirely possible to get a good local KeyForge community with enough work and advertisement, but it just involves someone putting in the effort to do so. As for obtaining product, the last few sets have been GameFound exclusives. They do have local game store backer support packages, so if you can manage to talk to your game stores, if you can manage to talk them into pledging, there are some great benefits for doing so. Otherwise, online retailers will be your best friend. This makes it harder for people to get into the game though, so once again, I'd just recommend pushing your local game stores to carry some sort of KeyForge product. What formats are currently supported? Well, officially the only formats we're seeing right now are Sealed, Archon, and Alliance. Sealed just involves up to taking 3 sealed decks of the latest set, building a deck out of 3 unique pods of your choice. Archon just involves bringing your best or favorite deck to play through the tournament with, and Alliance allows you to construct a deck consisting of 3 house pods from any decks within the same set. There are some unofficial formats like Adaptive and Triad that are a lot of fun, but these are really just used in more private events. Lastly, if you get stuck on certain rulings, there are plenty of great resources to help clarify things. The KeyForge Lounge server on Discord has rules questions and rules discussion channels with users who are extremely quick to respond during any hours of the day. The Archon's Corner is another very active server with lots of experienced players and lots of support, and of course there's always the KeyForge subreddit who will answer any questions you have about pretty much anything. So overall, it's definitely worth getting back into KeyForge. While the game currently has some management issues, the game itself is the most fun I've had with any card game ever, and is a breath of fresh air coming from other competitive card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon or Magic or whatever else is out there right now. The game has some of the craziest interactions and some of the most balanced gameplay I've ever seen, despite some of the power level issues with some of the later sets. KeyForge is definitely still rebuilding from the COVID and FFG disaster, but I'm really hoping to see the game continue to thrive, and I really have hopes for the future of this game. So thanks for watching, everyone, and if you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try to respond as soon as I can. Please like and subscribe, and let me know if you'd like to see more KeyForge content in the future. Thanks again, and take care.